see if this will... Hey, nice. Okay. Welcome to Dead Body Stuff, aka States of Decomposition for Dead Bodies, and officially Lesson 2 of VTuber Forensics. Anyways, recap. Why? What am I doing here? What's the point of forensics? Well, why am I teaching forensics, Mom? Because, well, there's a lot of VTuber detectives, okay? I can list off 3 at the top of my head, and now there's also VTubers who really just death incarnate, are just some type of Grim Reaper. That involves dead people involve forensics. It also forces you to think about the human body in a way you usually don't want to. Because nobody really wants to think about what happens with a failure. And it makes most crime scenes, crime dramas, seem very stupid. Cough, cough, CIS, cough, cough. Recap, what did we do last time? Blood spatter. That's it. We did high impact, medium impact, low impact, cast off, all that fun stuff. Talk about how you can determine from it, talk about how to determine it. Different types of tests, all that fun stuff. Today, however, we're talking about... Today, however, we are talking about the stages of decomposition for the human body and forensics. I think it's called forensic anthropology or something along the lines. Forensic pathology. Because we're telling the detail of someone's death. Trying to guesstimate the time based off the knowledge we have. So, with all that being said, I have a couple surprises hidden up my sleeve for this one. Mostly, I ain't spelling it. Anyways, first things first, we talk about the wounds that happened before murder. Antemortem. The form play of murder. Yeah, thank you. Any injuries that happen before death are called antemortem wounds. Well, more specifically, injuries that could have been related to the death of someone, but one, the direct cause of the death happened 5 minutes before the perimortem wounds, which is what was the killing blow. It's weird. You determine this by basically just looking for signs of bleeding, signs of healing, inflammation, histomatic responses, all that fun stuff. Your body is pretty quick to this, usually in like 5 minutes. Common examples: broken bones, bruises, cuts, scrapes, anything you might expect from just, existing. It can cause a reaction to the body. It probably counts as a wound. An antemortem wound at that. It can be used to help narrow down time. Here's some dogs, as I am not putting up photos of injuries on stream. Look at these little shits. Look at these inbred dogs. Anyways, one killing blow, there's 3 different names for it. But first, let's read out this story. I made up on the spot, don't think too much about it. Jim, please, stop streaming my life. This is the 3rd time this week, Carl said, desperation filling his voice. But alas, his voice falls upon deaf ears. No shit, Rips. I don't think I will, Jim stated oh so confidently. He's trying his best to remember how that one meme said on Reddit, but the exact one eluded him. I've had it, Carl said. We made peace with God, motherfucker! Carl pulls out a knife he had in his pocket for self-defense, but now he'll find a different use. He plunges it into Jim's abdomen until Jim's white blazer becomes a pale pink. That wasn't very gamer of you, Jim mutters with his last breath. Anyways, 3 different names. Mana. What do you say when you want to sound ominous whenever someone asks you about a death? There's 5 main types: accidental, suicide, homicide. So that's murder. Natural and undetermined. Undetermined is a little bitch category, and also when the forensic pathologists get called out. Not pathologist. I don't know the name for the life of me. But it's the name you say when you want to sound dramatic, basically. So it's like, how'd he die? It was a murder. It was a suicide. It was just an accident, they say, but I like to think it's homicide. Enjoy my violent drinking noises. Cause people mean when they ask you about the type of death. Some common examples: he was shot, he was stabbed, they had a heart attack, they died from blood loss. What you say when you want to sound smart about someone's death, and it's often the most specific, yet also the least useful, because it is literally what caused the cessation of life. It doesn't mean anything outside of a specific context. Like someone was stabbed, which is the cause of death. I misspelled that. Exsanguination. Okay, someone had a heart attack. What caused it? Cardiac arrhythmia. If it can elicit a laugh track on the Big Bang Theory, it is probably mechanism of death. Let's try it. What's the manner of Jim's death? A homicide. Why? He was murdered. I'd probably go over each of these in more detail. Accidental, pretty obvious. Someone slips and falls. Someone gets ran over by heavy machinery they left on like a dumbass. Suicide, you don't need me to describe what suicide is, I hope. Same thing with murder. Natural causes, stuff like heart attacks, old ages, all of that. Heart attack, old ages. Basically, if the body stops working by itself, that's natural. If you fuck up and you die, that's accidental. And I don't want to hear the fucking joke, like, oh, he fell off the cliff, the cause of death his manner of death was natural, because gravity is a natural force. Because no, that's still accidental. He fell off the cliff because he slipped. Or if he jumped off, it'd be a suicide. But not a natural cause of death. Manner of death. Manner of Jim's death. It was a homicide. Cause of Jim's death. He got stabbed. Mechanism of Jim's death. Exsanguination. You see why it's not very useful now. Doesn't mean anything. Postmortem changes. 3 months. Alga mortis. Lost body heat over time. Because, you know, no heart to keep... There's no metabolic processes to maintain heat. No, homeostasis cannot be maintained. So yeah, body temp goes down to the environmental temperature. Around that stage, though, there's always a tell. Every hour or so, 1.5 degrees, whatever the hell it is, in a nod units. I'm not gonna be using Celsius, so that's for little bitches. Rigor mortis, blood in the body. Yeah, blood cells where the body was closest to the ground. This is mostly because the heart just stops working, so it can't pump blood around actively. And as this hastily drawn diagram shows, if a body was laying on its side and out with a mortis set in, then the side it was laying on will be a lot redder than the rest of the body. You can use this to tell how the body was originally laid out, or if it was moved pretty easily. And if someone died standing up, blood pools on the feet, upside down, head, you get the drill. It's not that difficult, honestly. It's pretty simple. Now, rigor mortis, the popular one. Also what I call the Big Bang threshold. This is the second mention in Big Bang Theory. In case you can't tell, I don't like the show. I call this one the Big Bang threshold because this is the most commonly known one that also makes you still sound smart if you say it. This one gets a whole ass slide because it's also kind of complicated. As opposed to alga mortis and rigor mortis, which kind of just happen. Rigor mortis, it has stages, as I call it. And the stages are very innuendo filled, but don't worry about it. rigor mortis is basically what your muscles do when you die. This is because to keep your arms out flat, your body expends ATP/energy, basically, to lengthen your muscles and keep them flat. But when you die, your body goes into anaerobic energy production, aka it just doesn't use oxygen because no lungs to get oxygen and no blood flow to pump oxygen. So your body uses whatever energy it has in store. That's why it doesn't kick in immediately, because it's still hot and loose. You use this basically with, I think it was alga mortis? Alga mortis. You use this with alga mortis basically to figure out when someone died based off body temperature and stiffness of the dead body. We have hot and loose, hot and stiff, cold and stiff, and cold and loose. These are the hours post-time mortem that I just gave it like that. Hot and loose, pretty simple. Hot and stiff, body still has heat to it, but rigor mortis is kicked in. The body is now stiff, for lack of better terms. Arms now 90-degree angles, legs, all that. Cold and stiff, alga mortis, the body has reached around room temperature, environmental temperature, but the body is still stiff from rigor mortis. And cold and loose, 36 hours after death usually. And this is because the muscles themselves have become so worn down, by being tense practically, that they physically cannot keep the arm up anymore, or keep the muscles tense. So that's why it's loose, but that's literally just because the muscles physically cannot tighten. Which leaves me about the biggest, my least favorite scene in all of pop culture, and I think about for how fucking stupid it is where there's a scene like some weird ass teen drama or some shit. Where basically it's just like two Mona outcasts talking about zombie movies. Like one of them brought up how zombies move slow, and the other person trying to sound smart go, it's because the common perception is that rigor mortis would have set in around that time. However, rigor mortis was all over time, so the zombies couldn't move fast if that happened. Which, no. The zombies couldn't move at all if that happened. Because the muscles just aren't physically fucking connected. And the worst part was, instead of just the main other character, and I was like, wow, you don't want no dead bodies, maybe you're just like me. Some bullshit like that. That scene still annoys me greatly. Also, zombies movies get this wrong all the time, and this is also a main reason why zombies wouldn't be a threat in the slightest. Purely because they just don't have any fucking muscles to walk with after 6 hours. Past the multi-seas. This stuff is gonna be fun. Trust me. Alright. Past the monsters is some other miscellaneous stuff that happens after you kick the bucket. Your skin goes pale. That's technically a modest, but I didn't mention this because it's kind of obvious. Eyeballs develop a thin layer within minutes after death. It's called corneal crowding, and if your eyeballs are closed, it happens in a couple days. And this is gonna sound kind of gross, but within 2 days, within 48 hours, if your eyeballs are still open, they kind of just dissolve. Yeah. And if in a day, it takes a week, a couple days, really. If stomach stops digesting, you can use this more or less to figure out when someone died, if you know the last time they ate. Anaerobic respiration, that's really just a fancy talk for energy production without oxygen. You go through anaerobic respiration all the time if you do intense exercise. Organ failure, no shit. Signs of bugs usually show up within 1 to 2 days. This only applies though if bugs have a way to actually reach the body. And the first bug that usually does show up are houseflies. Surprisingly. Well, not surprisingly. And then it goes houseflies, blowflies, and then just some other stuff, and then beetles. Then barrels and wax. You can probably guess what happens if your barrels and wax. Anyways, fair warning, we are about to get to the nasty stuff. Putrefaction and swathing. So feel free to mute the stream or video or whatever you want at this point, and I won't blame you. And just watching like the peripheral when I crap twice. That means that the screaming stuff is over and we can move on. And for obvious reasons, I also won't have any pictures here. I'm gonna give you like 15 seconds to mute the video. If you're honest stuff, this is kind of gross. Okay. So anyways, putrefaction and swathing. I misspelled swathing on purpose because the original spelling is also kind of gross. But like, the people on mute don't have to know that. Anyways, putrefaction. This happens because between the bacteria in your gut are still producing gases the entire time. Just usually speaking, we filter it out via our lungs and breathing it out. No lungs means the gas can kind of just glow by itself. And what happens when gas is left in a environment with no exit? Yeah, it becomes bloated. For lack of better words, it's like the skin is stretched like a balloon. And then eventually, if the gases get too big, well, you can probably guess what happens when too much gas accumulates in a small area. And then swathing happens after putrefaction happens, because usually the gas will find some way to vent. And then with swathing, the skin becomes loose. And here's a cute soft photo while I talk about this. The skin will become loose, and so now, it's gonna become loose. The bonds between it and the muscle beneath would have degraded past the point. So you could just peel it off like a glove. Yeah. Anyways, for putrefaction, that is also why if you see a beached whale, you shouldn't touch it, and that's why there's so many videos of whales exploding on beaches. Yeah. You thought the whales exploding was just a prank? No, it's putrefaction. They've dead. Their gut produces a shit ton of gas. They can't vent enough of it. It builds up. They explode. That's enough of this game of stuff, however. So, 1, 2. These cute soft photos. Welcome back anyone who's unmuted. How you doing? Postmortem injuries. We talked about perimortem, we talked about antemortem, now this is postmortem. We haven't talked about perimortem, but I'll get to that later. Postmortem are injuries that happened after a person's dead. This is either the easiest type of injury to determine or the hardest type. Just purely based off of context, I guess. For instance, you find a femur 500 feet down a wolf den that smells of piss and has scratch marks on it. Then yeah, you can probably guess what happened. It's probably safe to assume that happened after the person died. Sometimes though, if you see someone with a gunshot wound, but also strangulation marks, then one of those has to be postmortem, one of those has to be perimortem. Easiest way to tell? I say easiest because it's still not easy in the slightest. There's a lot of different factors at play here. Mean way to tell though is look for like any signs of blood clotting or healing from the wounds themselves. Because once you die, your body can't heal the wounds, and they can't actively send out the white blood cells either to clot. So some common examples include animal bite marks, dragon, and bruises, most because the body bruises very easily when you die. Surprise, I know. Anyways, that's it. Yeah, okay, I didn't cover perimortem wounds. Perimortem wounds are basically just the killing blow, so to speak. Happen any wounds that happen between 5 minutes before the death and 5 minutes after the death. And that's usually what the killing blow is administered. Just any time after the 5-minute window after, it's called postmortem. 5 minutes before, it's called antemortem. Any time done is called perimortem. The way you can tell perimortem wounds is more or less just... perimortem wounds have a lot of similarities to postmortem wounds, yet it's hard to describe how to tell for them. But basically just look for a mixture of both postmortem injuries and antemortem injuries. Because the body's still going to have a reaction, but it may not actually be enough. There is actually technically a way to narrow it down slightly using trying to think of what the one was called. Basically, you look for histamines, which is just the hormone for an immune response, basically. But whenever an injury happens, histamines usually get sent out pretty quickly. And you can use that more or less to tell when an injury happened and if the person was still alive for it. That's the way you can usually tell from antemortem wound, but doesn't work with postmortem. Because if you're dead, your I forgot what the fuck. Histological system, I think it's called, won't exactly be working. Anyways, that's it. Feel free to send me any questions, DMs. I enjoy doing these. I like teaching. I like forensics. Listen to my TED Talk. And don't question too much on why a monk is trying to teach forensics.